Well, good afternoon, Rotary District 7770, and welcome to Conversations with Rotary Action People for Wednesday, September 16th. My name is Donald Hovis from the Chicora Rotary Club in Myrtle Beach, and I'm your CWRAP host. We are pleased to be joined by a fellow District 7770 Rotarian from the West Metro Club in Columbia. Let's give a warm welcome to Jerry Bellune. Good morning or good afternoon, Jerry.
Good afternoon, Donald.
We're excited to have you with us, and we'll be getting to you here in just a few minutes. I will kick off today's meeting by asking past District Governor Sandy Brooks to bless our meeting today.
Accept our thanks for the day and all of its blessings. Guide and direct our clubs, our leaders, and our actions. Grant that each of us may feel our responsibility to Rotary, to our community, and to our country. Bless our fellowship today. Amen.
Thank you, Sandy. And now for the Pledge of Allegiance, Ms. Susan Terrard.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Susan.
Mm-hmm.
Now introducing to you your CWRAP team, our public image chair from the 5 Points Rotary Club in Columbia, the wonderful Mary Gask. Good morning or good afternoon, Mary. And our public district communications officer from the Somerville Evening Rotary Club in Somerville, sporting his brand new virtual background, which you can download in the chat, Mr. Terry Moore. Good afternoon, Terry. Love the background. Those of you on the Zoom call here, thank you very much. Those of you over on our Facebook page, thank you very much for being here. We want to know who you are. So in the chat box on Zoom, how about put your name and your Rotary Club, and then I want you to answer this one question. So those of you that have already put your name and your club, I want you to answer this question as well. Is now that we're getting ready to approach the fall season, what is your favorite thing to make during the fall? Whether that's an entree, a dessert, an appetizer, what do you like to make during the fall season and enjoy when the cooler weather comes around? So how about put that in the chat box? And if you're on Facebook, just post a comment below the stream with your name, your Rotary Club, and how about answer that question as well. And who knows, we might share something you say at the end of today's meeting. So once again, joining us is the founder of the Lexington County Chronicle and the Dispatch News, Mr. Jerry Bellune. Jerry, thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Donald.
How about, for those that just joined, how about tell your Rotary story real quick, because I believe you've been a Rotarian for quite some time.
I joined Rotary in, I believe it was February of 1985. It was the Lexington Club, and I held a number of offices there. We also had an annual horse show, and I was presented the first year with my own shovel, which was one of the club standing jokes for all of the new members. At the horse shows, I was lucky enough to attend the French fryer and would come home and have to take a bath and take all my clothes off because I was covered with grease. But when Ted McGee, this was 16 years ago, got the charter for the West Metro Club, I saw an opportunity to help build a club from scratch. We had over 120 members in the Lexington Club. It had gotten so large that, frankly, I didn't know all the members. But that happens in large clubs, as many of you know. But I moved over there, served as president, have the most coveted pin in Rotary, the past president's pin. And it's a terrific club. It's a very strong community leadership club, and that'll probably be my last of 2 clubs. So.
Well, excellent. And you being the founder of 2 newspapers, you kind of told a story that when you purchased these, they said you might not last 6 months, and I believe you've been lasting 28 years now.
That's right.
That's a neat story. So how about you answer some questions and let our viewers hear from you a little bit more about newspapers, and are they going away? Will they be around forever? And if you have a question for Jerry, how about you post that in the chat box, and we'll ask that of him later on. But before I ask you, the first question is District Governor Pauline is on the call today. So, and according to her, she has some short ribs in the oven right now. And those of you in Rotary know it's about food, fun, and fellowship. So we got the fellowship and the fun out of the way. But the food, Pauline, we're coming over after the call. So, make sure you have enough. And those of you traveling from around the district, make sure Pauline, you keep them warm for those folks as well. So, Jerry, why do you think the major media is having such a hard time right now?
Well, that's a great question, Donald. Let me say first, I really appreciate Mary Gass calling this our newspapers a dying art. I had never thought of newspapers as an art. They were always thought of them really more as mission focused, but I guess if Sun Tzu can call war an art, newspapers are entitled to qualify too. I think there are 3 major reasons that most of the media is having financial trouble. And of course, in these months since February and March, many businesses are having financial problems. I'm just glad I'm not in the airline business, for example. But I think some of the large newspapers of the state, among them, the Greenville News, they are over leveraged with debt. They're kind of like the United States Treasury. It owes more money than it actually has. The second reason is most of them are owned by absentee owners, investors, other places, management teams, other places. And I think in many ways they have lost the touch with their immediate newspaper audience. That's one of the reasons I think that small newspapers like ours, I mean, we live in the community that we publish in and cover news in. We know the people and they know us. When I worked on large newspapers in New York and Philadelphia, we always had phalanxes of security to keep the readers out. And I'm just thankful that in a small newspaper like ours, our readers can pick up the phone or come to the office, and if they disagree with me, tell me why. And I'm always agreeable to disagree with people. So the debt problem, though, is huge for many large newspapers, and that's true of radio and television and other forms of communication too. Large organizations have taken on debt to acquire other properties, and I think one of the things they're going to have to do is start thinking about flattening out and trying to find buyers for some of their properties that they cannot manage well or are really mismanaging.
Gotcha. So what might they, particularly the large daily newspapers, do to improve their situation?
Well, I would say that they probably ought to be looking at the Post and Courier in Charleston. Of all the daily newspapers in South Carolina, that's probably the most successful and profitable one. A lot of the reasons that the Post and Courier has managed to stem the tide as well as they have is, A, it's family owned, it's locally managed, and it keeps its advertisers and readers first in its focus in everything. If you do that, the profits will follow.
Gotcha. And are community papers like yours feeling the same financial pressures?
No, we are under pressure. I'll be honest with you, our revenue in August was about 33% of what it was in August of last year. But saying that, we're still profitable. We're just not as profitable at the bottom line as we were. And I think one of the reasons for that is most of us are debt-free. We don't own millions of dollars for acquisitions. We are close to our audience and they are close to us. So there's a good relationship built there between our advertisers and our subscribers and us. We're a family operation. So we're not feeling and this is true, I think, of probably at least 60% of the community newspapers in this country. Now, there are some that are really suffering and some have actually folded. But I don't look for that to happen to us, and I don't look for it to happen to at least 60% of the community newspapers in America.
So what are you and your people doing to improve your own situation?
Well, we spend a lot more time online than we used to. And I think this is probably partly I need to share the credit with COVID-19. People in our community are a lot more interested in what's going on in their community, particularly involving the schools, the safety of their children, the health of their families. Can we safely go out to eat tonight? Or can I go shopping? Is it safe to go to the grocery store? So a lot more of them are coming to our site for information and news. We used to have probably about 1,000 people visit our site a day. Now it's double that. It's 2,000 a day. If you think about that, that's about 18 people a minute coming to our website to see what's there and what news is on. We still, of course, print our newspaper. We also print a free newspaper called the Fish Wrapper that's distributed at over 400 locations in our area. And it's a very popular paper, I think partly because it's free and partly because it has comic strips and puzzles and recipes and fun and games and some local news too.
That's great. So your paper is digital.
It is digital, LexingtonChronicle.com for anyone who'd like to take a look. In fact, I posted 4 stories on the site this morning before our call today. My son posted a couple. So we try to keep fresh news on that site for our visitors. At one time, we have had as many as 3,500 visitors a day. That was back when it was COVID-19. We didn't know near as much about it, and it was pretty scary for people.
Gotcha. And my last question for you before I go to some viewer questions, which we do have a few submitted, so thank you for that, is do you think printed newspapers have a long-term future?
Yes, I do. I think there are people who prefer print, and there are people who prefer reading it online. How that's going to evolve, I think maybe God only knows, and He's not telling us. But I think there'll be a lot more news and journalism that you can access, say, in the car and listen to it like radio. It might be coming from your local newspaper rather than a radio station. I think there'll be a lot of things that the internet's going to allow us to do, or we're going to be able to pioneer that will make it. But I think when radio came along, they said that was going to be the death of newspapers. Well, it wasn't. And when TV came along, they said that'd be the death of radio, and it wasn't. And the internet came along and said it'd be the death of all three, and it hasn't been. It's adding another means of communication to all of us. It's just a great opportunity for newspapers, radio, television, and and social media. So anybody who's in the communications business, I think the opportunities there are enlarging and becoming a lot easier to access. So I think print's going to be around. When Jeff Bezos opened up a bricks and mortar bookstore, everybody was amazed, but Jeff Bezos knew something. People still like to hold the thing in their hands and read it. So I think we'll be around, digitally and in print.
I gotcha. So this is a comment followed up by a question from a viewer. Is we appreciate our local written news. Can you name one news report that you ran you feel defines your paper?
Well, I invite anybody to go to LexingtonChronicle.com. You will find, if you'll click on news, you'll find a little thing that says that newspapers don't spread COVID-19. And this is based on the latest research that says that paper is not a real conductor of the virus germ. I know our hospital won't let us in with papers right now. A lot of doctors' offices won't let us in with paper right now. And we've tried to explain to them that, the science says that you're perfectly safe. So I think in a way that defines our newspaper is that we want to be able to serve people, to serve those who live in our community and get the latest news to them. And we just hope that people won't be afraid to pick up the paper and read it or go online and read it.
Does your family ever have debates over the decision to cover a certain issue, and how does that impact your Sunday dinner?
Well, we go to press on Tuesday night. The Charleston Post and Courier, incidentally, prints our paper and brings it up to Lexington for us, where our drivers then distribute it. But I'm not sure really how to answer that. Listen, our family is married to these two newspapers. People say, I want you to meet Jerry Bellune. He runs the Lexington County Chronicle. And I always say, no, the Lexington County Chronicle runs Jerry Bellune. So it's, I was online last night. My wife finally got after me and she said, listen, get offline, let's have dinner. So, but it's more of a calling than just a business or a job. And I hope that all you Rotarians on the call with us today feel the same way about what you do in life, that it's really your calling, it's your mission, your purpose. Then I tell you, it's going to be a much richer and more fulfilling life for you.
I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. So how about you compare your ad sales to ad sales for larger newspapers?
I think we're doing pretty well. Most of the department stores, of course, have suffered the same declining revenue and retail sales that a lot of people are. So, you don't see the daily newspapers full of full-page ads for Macy's and Gimbel's and places like that. Believe it or not, Walmart and Target and Lowe's and Home Depot and some of the big boxes are still doing very well. But most of the department stores and the larger advertisers that you see in a lot of daily newspapers just can't afford it now. Or many of them have cut back so far that they're practically out of business. Our advertisers in our community recognize that we reach the people that they like and need to do business with, that investing in advertising with us is smart. And so they have stuck with us. So our advertising is down somewhat. Our subscription sales, believe it or not, are up. And our single copy sales at service stations and convenience stores and supermarkets and that kind of place are up too, because people really want to know what's going on. I think people are more information savvy today, and partly because of technology, than they ever were.
I agree. This is a comment here. Is Arthur Ravenel used to refer to the News and Courier as the shrimp wrapper?
I knew Arthur, I knew him well. Visited in his home, really, actually. Arthur was a great quipster. He would have probably called both of our papers fish wrappers or canary cage liners, but he did it with a good heart, I think, and he was mostly joking, because believe me, Arthur Ravenel read the Post and Courier every morning. Wanted to make sure that they weren't saying something bad about him.
And the last question I have here for you, submitted by a viewer, is: do you think political bias is one of the causes for readership decreasing?
Decreasing?
Correct.
I think so. I think well, I'll admit I'm a conservative, as are many people in South Carolina. And I'm constantly amazed and really kind of concerned about what's happening in the mainstream media. And I mean, big newspapers like the New York Times, the Washington Post, the news channels like CNN and Fox, and even the big networks, NBC, ABC, CBS. They seem to have been hijacked by either the left or the right. We try to play it right down the middle. Now, on the opinion page, we say what we think, but on the news pages, we try to report it as accurately and fairly, always looking for what is the other side of this argument, giving everybody a chance to get their oar in the water.
And I just had one more submitted here. Have you heard of the Epoch Times, EPOCH?
I do. I read it every morning.
How about that? Where's that out of?
I'm not sure. It's a conservative daily news outlet. It's kind of the Rush Limbaugh of the internet, but they do have some interesting stories.
Interesting. Well, thanks for coming on with us and sharing kind of your passion and your calling for newspapers and keeping the stories out there for everyone to read. So we appreciate it.
May I say something about Rotary?
Absolutely.
I think I commend and congratulate all of you on this call who are Rotarians. I think we all recognize that it is one really great way that we can fulfill some of our responsibility to our community. I've been a Rotarian since maybe some of you were in diapers, and I haven't regretted a minute of it. It's been a great ride. We've been able to help thousands of people in our community, and probably through things like Polio Plus and the Water Project, we've been able to help literally millions of people who would not otherwise have been able to escape polio or have clean drinking water or go to school or enjoy the better things in life. So I'm proud to have had an opportunity to be a Rotarian and feel quite humble that I'm such a small, insignificant part of such a great worldwide organization.
Yeah, amazing, right? That we're
It is.
impacting, stuff all around the world. One final thing in closing, and I see Bob Gross has got his hand up. Bob, hold on one second. How many newspapers do you read daily, Jerry?
I read a number of them online. Probably, well, I read the State because that's kind of our competition. I read the Free Times, which is another paper circulated here. We have 6 weekly newspapers in our little county. Lexington County, of course, is the home of Lake Murray. And we live on Lake Murray. That was one of our dreams when we were living up north on big newspapers, was to come home to South Carolina, find a little newspaper we could operate, and live on Lake Murray. But I probably read 4 or 5 newspapers a day, and I also read a lot of news websites too, looking for national, international stories that might have a Lexington County or a community-minded angle for our people. I saw, for instance, the other day a story from one of the Greenville TV stations talking about a guy who was selling counterfeit Nike and other fake branded products over in near Fort Jackson. But the guy lives in Irmo, which is right in our coverage area. So I grabbed that story and put it online.
And I'll say one thing, and I'll turn it to Bob Gross here in just a second, is there's something about Lake Murray and people that live on Lake Murray and CWRAP. If those of you have tuned in, I think this has to be about the 4th or the 5th person we have had that lives on Lake Murray. Several of them had Lake Murray as their background for their presentation. So there has to be a magnet in Lake Murray that is attached to our district and obviously our CWRAP program. So thank you, Jerry. And what a sweet kiss there from Jamie to Terry. That was all on camera. We saw it. Oh, wow. Double trouble. All right. Well, Jerry, thank you again. Bob Gross, you want to come off mute? He's having some difficulties, but we'll give him just a moment.
Hang on a minute.
There you go.
Okay. Sorry. Am I off?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think one of the reasons that the community papers are so successful, Jerry, is that they cover news that obviously the bigger papers don't. And I think that transition occurred when some of the national newspapers started. But I wanted to ask, how many people have ever heard of a guy named Al Newharth?
I worked for him.
Okay, well, Al Newharth started USA Today, and if you want to read a funny but very, very interesting book that he wrote, is called Confessions of an SOB, and it is a hilarious book. But it's a story of how he worked for Knight Ridder and all the big papers, and he always had this vision of a national newspaper. And people said, no, you're crazy. Newspapers have to be local. And he finally got on with a little company called Gannett, and the rest is history. But it's a funny book, and people would, it's out in paperback, and it's really enjoyable.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, I worked for Al. I worked for Gannett actually twice, but in fact we won a Pulitzer when I was working with Al in New Jersey.
Well, that book is a hoot, and it's very enjoyable. It's funny.
It is. I've read it twice.
Thank you for sharing that, Bob. And Jerry, thank you again for being with us. Those of you on Zoom, appreciate you as well. Those of you on Facebook, appreciate you joining as well. How about I will end with several announcements, and I'll thank DG Pauline for putting these in the chat. So if you don't want to hear me ramble on, you can just see that information in the chat box. But up first will be happy hour tomorrow, Thursday. And I'm going to tell you, if you live in this district, it's going to be raining tomorrow. So why not come inside where you probably should be if it's raining and get on happy hour with fellow Rotarians. Information on how you can log into that is in DACDB. On Friday, not only do we have CWRAP at 11 o'clock, but before CWRAP, we have a membership summit, the third one, talking about innovative clubs that begins at 9:30. You can do that through Zoom, or we put that on Facebook if I'm not mistaken as well. In fact, I plan to watch via Facebook on Friday prior to CWRAP. But so all Friday morning from 9:30 till about 11:45, you can have Rotary, because we do have CWRAP coming up on Friday at 11 o'clock. And then the final announcement, and this is a good one. I think every club should have at least one participant, not only at the membership summit, but this final thing that is the strategic planning session with our RI director, Stephanie Urchik, which is on September 29th. That is a Tuesday, not Tuesday next week, but Tuesday a week, from 6 to 8 o'clock. I assume information on how to get into this is also in DACDB. If not, maybe we can get it there. With that, I will end today with the Rotary four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful Wednesday, and we'll see you on Friday for the next conversation with Rotary Action People. That's a wrap. Thank you.
Hey, Jerry, thank you